Ladies and gentlemen, I hope and pray that you are fine wherever you are. Welcome again to our session of Africa and discussions about issues facing Kenya, Africa, and the world. And in this platform today, in this session today, I want us to talk about a given developing issue that is concerning BRICS and the need for Africa and African states to unite in order to engage with these economic or trading blocks. First, before I delve into discussing the issue of BRICS and its connection with Africa, I want to ask an open-minded question. Is the United States unhappy with African unity? That is my first question. And my second question goes, do you think Africa can be a strong force when it is united? Do you think Africa can be a strong force? I mean politically, economically, technologically, and socially when it is united. In my perspective and in my own understanding, I will give my responses to the questions, and I have said that this discussion will be an open discussion, open-minded one. I think the United States is scared and very unhappy with African unity. All along, the United States believes that controlling Africa comes easily when the states are disunited, when the states are disconnected. That is going with the colonial method of divide and rule. The United States believes that Africa is very easy to control when the states are disunited, disengaged from one another. Thus, I conclude that the United States is equally scared, equally unhappy with African unity. To my second question, can Africa be prosperous? Can Africa be successful when it is united? My response to that question is affirmative. That means that Africa can be very prosperous, can be very successful when the states are united. In answering that question, I want to refer us to a speech. I like speeches of these founding fathers. A speech that was delivered by His Majesty Mwami Mwabusa IV, that was the King of Burundi, in 1963 during the OAU summit in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. His Majesty Mwami Mwabusa said, "Our enemies are happy to see Africa balkanized. It is certain that a divided Africa will always be a dominated Africa." A very good speech. It is certain that a divided Africa will always be a dominated Africa. That means that provided, so long as African states remain disunited, so long as African states remain sovereign to one another, colonial domination will always be very easy. The United States and other colonizers will find it very easy to occupy Africa. That calls and begs the aim, the goal, that Africa must be united. That is my one area of focus in this discussion. After that, I go to this trading bloc, which I named BRICS. BRICS stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. These countries have trading ties. They are recognized as a trading bloc. But when I see these countries, I sense some danger. The only African country among these five nations, is South Africa. South Africa is unique to this group. Very unique. When I look at the global ranking of these countries in terms of GDP and in terms of economic performance, Brazil, which is one of the countries in the BRICS bloc, is ranked number 8 with a GDP of 2.054 trillion and a share of world GDP of 2.54%. That is Brazil. Russia is ranked number 11. That is global ranking, with a GDP of 1.578 trillion. Then India is ranked number 5 with a total GDP of 2.651 trillion. All the figures are in US dollars. India ranked number 5. Then we go to China. China is ranked 2nd with a GDP of 12.238 trillion US dollars. Then we go to our friend South Africa. South Africa is ranked number 32 with a GDP of 349 billion US dollars. From that ranking alone, you can see that the 4 other countries, including Brazil, Russia, India, and China, their GDP are in terms of trillions. When we come to South Africa, its GDP is 349 billion. At this point, if I may ask the question, do you think these countries are playing at the same level? Do you think these countries are performing at the same level economically? Do you think the economic balance between these 5 countries is normal, if I may say so? And from these indications, do you think this alignment is beneficial to Africa? From this ranking alone, I would say that BRICS is not the best platform for South Africa. South Africa is enjoying an unfair play. There is no fair playing ground for South Africa in BRICS. And I tend to believe that South Africa's presence in BRICS is leading to more harm than benefits, because Brazil is, all these countries except Russia are in top 10 economically, globally. Russia is ranked number 11. Then you find South Africa in number 32. there is no fair play in this economic bloc, in this trading bloc. And I tend to believe that South Africa has no voice in this trading bloc. Even if it has a voice as a member, but its influence economically is not significant. And in such a way, Brazil, Russia, India, and China may not give South Africa the adequate respect that it deserves. I also saw in a news outlet today that Ethiopia had applied to belong to BRICS. Now, those will be 2 African countries in BRICS if its application is honored. But I tend to believe that South Africa belonging to BRICS is not helping the country economically. Ethiopia belonging to BRICS is not helping the country economically. I front for a united Africa. I front for an Africa that communicates in one voice. If Africa wants to be a member of BRICS, if these countries want to be members of BRICS, then they must unite first. I think the first step in belonging to BRICS and gaining massive control in this trading bloc, the first step is for African unity. African countries must unite and form their own trading bloc. And in using this trading bloc, they will communicate in one voice. I think that would be a very perfect solution to the question of BRICS. African countries should unite first, form one economic bloc that unites all the 54 African countries. I don't know whether there are 55, but a platform that unites all the African countries and allows them to communicate with one voice. In terms of politics, in terms of economics, in terms of social issues, in terms of religion, in terms of technology, and any other sector that is beneficial for Africans. Africa must first unite, and then they communicate using one voice. And until then, South Africa's presence in BRICS and Ethiopia's waiting presence in BRICS has no influence, and in my view will not benefit these 2 African countries. You can see recently South Africa is a member of BRICS, but currently there are issues, problems in South Africa. A country to the level of South Africa is still facing constant power blackouts, and it is a member of BRICS. Is BRICS helping South Africa? Will BRICS help Ethiopia? BRICS can only help Africa if Africa is united. I front for an African unity, and I long for a day when African countries will unite and talk with one voice. I want to solidify my statements with a very critical, a very important statement from one of our founding fathers. I just want to refer to a given African leader just for just a few minutes. That was yes, His Royal Highness Hassan Rida, who during the 1963 conference represented His Majesty King Idris I of Libya. Hassan Rida said, "We live in a world in which regional and international groupings play the greatest role, and it is naturally difficult for any nation to proceed alone." The success of South Africa in BRICS will be non-significant if Africa is not united. The success of Ethiopia in BRICS will not be significant if Africa is not united. The only strategy, the only success formula is for African unity. Thank you everyone, and front for African unity.